Welcome to the Evansville Wartime Museum. It's great to see everybody here. It's a pleasant spring day, finally. So all who are able, please rise for a prayer. Lord, our God, our Holy Father, our Creator, we give you great thanks for the weather we have today. We give you thanks for the food, and we ask your blessing upon it. And we call out and identify those who help to support this program, the Bronstein Foundation, great supporters of the museum and this program. We always honor those who have served this country. Some have given all that they have. We give thanks for all of our volunteers. And we appreciate all who are attending today. And as we prayed the last time, we call upon you to give wisdom to world leaders, to protect our servicemen and women, and we ask that there be peace around the world. It's a big ask, but we come to you because you are the Creator and you have a plan, and we ask that your plan provide peace and safety for all of us. So we ask these things, and we give you great thanks, and we want to close with Amen.
Amen.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Larry Head will lead us in the singing of the Star-Spangled Banner.
Thank you, John. Please feel free to join in. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Larry. One thing I would like to remind you is the first Thursday in April, of course, is a lunch and share. And then we have a special second Thursday of the month lunch and share, and that's with Don Ballard, Medal of Honor recipient, followed by the third Thursday lunch and share. So I want to remind you on your reservations for Don Ballard and for the Roberta Hyman, the 9th and the 16th. You can make those reservations as you're leaving here. That's not what we normally ask. We normally ask that you call in for reservations. Mark?
Thank you, John. It's announcement time. This Saturday you have, can you stand up, Mrs. Sanderson? This young lady, she is standing, but so this is Mrs. Sanderson, and she's going to help with a thing called Rosie the Riveter Day. It's free to you. and it's free to your kids or grandkids or nieces and nephews. So we'd love to see you out here. We open at 11, John, and they're open till 4, and it will be several stations that they can learn something. I would say you could go to Chuck E. Cheese or you can come here. But we don't have loud music, and you may learn something. But Chuck E. Cheese, I don't know if you will. So you're competing with Chuck E. Cheese. They got a special that day too.
We have a special also, and it's free. So Woods and Woods is a very wonderful sponsor for the museum. They are all about veterans. I didn't know that until we talked to them about coming out and allowing all of you to come in free. Free admission is a big deal, I think, because then you can spend money at the gift shop and you can enjoy maybe a donation or two. So we've got you covered, but it's going to be a wonderful day. And do you know what happened a couple of days ago? I received a call and the lady said, I want to talk to you about Rosie the River today. I said, yeah, okay, great. I have a mother who worked on the P-47. Her birthday was 10/10/25, and her name is Ruby Carroll. She's coming out to the museum on Saturday. It is so exciting. We will have 2 live, living, healthy Rosies. So for no reason other than that, you want to meet them. Thank you.
Nancy helps with the education. There's only 35 people that are volunteers with the education committee. 35 is a lot. They just went to Castle School on Tuesday, and Miss Abrams was there, and about 4 of them were there and presented our portable exhibit on the Holocaust. So it was very interesting for kids that I listened, and I don't think a lot of them knew a lot about it. So we have a program that goes out to schools, or they can come here. And so it's she started with the committee started with 700 to 900 first year, second year 1,700, last year 3,000, and this year will be 4,000. So it's educating, youngsters, and you need to be part of that education. You need to tell them what you need for Christmas or New Year's or your birthday. They need to come out here. And they can learn something from you, because you'll talk about your mother and father, and that would teach them close to 100 years of time. They're not going to listen to their parents, but they might listen to you. They're not going to listen to me. I don't know who they're going to listen to, but they might listen to you. So please do that at some time. There's another couple events. The Don Ballard thing could be confusing. John Gross brought it up, but we will allow you to come here if you sign up, like he said, for Thursday, April 9th, 2026. There'll be a lunch and learn. You can hear Don Ballard, and Ed Brundick will be up here talking back and forth, questions, and you think of some questions. It was in the newspaper yesterday. He's going to USI on Wednesday night. I don't want to tell you the story because then you won't come. His name's Don Ballard. He's a Medal of Honor. The newspaper said 66. I think there's only 56 living right now. There were close to 330 Medal of Honor recipients. But that's April 8th at USI. It's free at 6 p.m. You want to drive out there, you can carpool or whatever. It's here on April 9th, but we may be overbooked depending on how you sign up. But he's at a bunch of other places, but the only public venue is University of Southern Indiana on April 8th, a Wednesday. Now, the last thing I need to talk about is we have a cabinet back there. It's the Revolutionary War, and we're going to have a celebration of the 250th anniversary of our country, and that'll be on April 18th. That's a Saturday, and that day's not free, but we will have about 10 of the Sons of the American Revolution up here, and they will talk about some things, but they will bring the gun out, and the gun is the tall gun. It's probably one of our most used guns for 200 plus years. We have one example in that area, and we will use a thing called a fife. I know all of you know what it is, but it's a little flute that they used in that war. The British and the English, or the British, they are English. British went against us, but they both had that same mechanism of communicating, the drum and the fife. So we're going to try to have them give this gentleman some orders. And the SDAR should be here as well. That is April 18th. You won't be able to remember it. We'll tell you again and tell you again. And so we're going to talk about this guy now. Now this guy is going to talk about Mike Little. He's going to talk a lot about things that you're going to be very interested in. It's really, we've been doing a lot of history, but he's real time. He's going to talk a little bit about Venezuela and also about Iran, about the things, the mechanisms of war that we have. And they're so highly technically proficient, and some of the things the other countries don't have. We're not going to talk about the ethics, we're not going to talk about the philosophy or the other. He's going to talk about what mechanisms we have. If we talk about the other, we'll be here for a year. So he's a very good speaker, and he's talked one at a time here. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you, Doctor. Well, you might want to hold the applause until I'm finished because, this is the fourth time I've had the opportunity to address this august body of friends, veterans, and families, and I take this very seriously. I'm going to get started here with a family introduction. Actually, this is our topic for today. United States military advanced technology of today. And if you watch the news or just alive anymore, you know there's a lot going on. And I've actually rewritten this twice. So, I could have done so again this morning because of what's been happening. I come from a military family, although this is me a few years back when I was on the ship. I was in the Navy from 66 to 70. I was a first yeoman, second class. I got out, went to college, got a master's degree, taught college, worked in a coal mine, and also sold cars and was a sales manager at Kenny Kent Toyota Lexus for 30 years. So stuff has a way of changing. This is my dad. I told you I take this seriously. He was in North Africa, Sicily, and Italy during World War II. And at the same time, his older brother, Bob, was on a destroyer in the South Pacific. And meanwhile, the short guy here is their younger brother, Bill. He was 82nd Airborne, made 3 combat jumps during the war. One of them was in Normandy, and he made it back, had a couple of Purple Hearts. And then my father-in-law, Bill By, was the Army Air Corps and stationed on the island of Tinian. Some of you that'll ring a bell for some of you. That's where the A-bomb was finished and loaded onto airplanes. And his platoon was right next door to where they were doing all the stuff, the white coats. He said it was exciting. And we have a special guest today. I'm not going to ask him to stand, but the tallest boy there is my oldest son, Brian Spradlin. The gun he has was in his hands was in the Mideast, Desert Storm, and he was over there for a nerve-wracking year. So we always talk about the veterans and the people that were in the field, but I'd like to bring my grandmother up, Leela Clark, and as you can see, my dad's on this side would be your left. And then my Uncle Bob and Uncle Bill and some goofball in the bottom of the picture just happened to be there at the right time. That's just whatever. So anyway, several months ago, Dr. Browning and I talked about a topic for what we were going to do today. And I just offhand suggested, what about the latest military technology? He said, okay, it's a fine job. So owing to the recent operation in Venezuela, and also the ongoing war in Iran and the Mideast, this brought the technology up to today, and it makes it very exciting. So some of today's topics are new words to a lot of us: hypersonic weapons, direct energy weapons, microelectronics, quantum science, robotics, biotechnology, and electronic warfare. And that's what's going on right now as we speak in the Mediterranean. I'm sure that most of us have heard of the term artificial intelligence, or AI. AI ties all of this technology together because many people have the notion, I'm not among them, that we should work on common sense before we go into advanced technology or artificial intelligence. Artificial intelligence, the definition is it's a capability of computational systems to perform tasks typically associated with human intelligence, such as learning, reasoning, problem solving, perception, and decision making. And I don't know how that all works, but I don't know how these lights work, but I'm not going to stand up here in the dark. So I just have to accept it and move on, like a lot of things. And let's face it, 20th century warfare was fought with walkie-talkies, paper maps, and binoculars. And that doesn't work today, especially when in my pocket right here, and I'm sure all of you, or most of you have, a device that will hook you up to almost any information in the entire world, almost instantaneously. So we have to move forward, but we're not going to be like James Bond and Dick Tracy, but it's close, because I just got rid of a watch that I could see people in time on. But it's a little bit beyond my interest level. As I said earlier, we discussed this topic a long time ago, and presenting the Venezuela operation information is going to provide an explanation of the electronic warfare primarily, and the stealth stuff that they use. The transfer of this from Venezuela to Iran is almost instantaneous because they're using the same stuff. And it's very interesting. To give you an idea, a lot of people don't know where Venezuela is. I was kind of confused myself. It's basically the northernmost country in South America. And that's just a general picture of what the countryside looks like and whatever. So what I want to talk about is the recent operation to pull out the dictator Nicolas Maduro from his residence and bring him into the United States was largely conducted by the use of the newest technologies available to our military. For Venezuela, this might have been the most humiliating part of the entire operation, and it's barely being talked about. And I'm glad to present the information to you because it's amazing to me. In the 3-hour operation to capture the dictator, U.S. forces didn't just expose Russian air defenses and Chinese technology as useless, they absolutely discredited it. Iran also bought this technology, and it has provided the same disappointing results for Iran as it did for Venezuela. This is a picture of a Chinese radar that Venezuela bought 9 of these 7-story meter-wave anti-stealth radar systems. The Chinese sold them as being capable of detecting stealth aircraft. All 9 of them failed. The radar is supposed to be China's answer to stealth. However, during the real operation with real stealth aircraft, real electronic warfare pressure, it saw nothing. No warning, no tracking, and no response. The U.S. aircraft flew in, dismantled air defenses before they got there. They inserted helicopters, extracted a head of state alive. They left, and both the Russian SAMS systems and the Chinese anti-stealth systems were effectively blinded. The weapons they looked terrifying in brochures and impressive in TV promotions, but when tested against U.S. systems, they collapsed. Unlike some previous operations, there were no U.S. casualties, and only 1 helicopter was struck, but it made it back safely. Similar results were clearly apparent in Iran. The recent conflict involving the USA, Israel, and others with Iran, the U.S. military has used a mix of advanced aircraft, missiles, drones, and what we call targeted missile defense systems. Modern warfare relies heavily on precision weapons and high-tech systems, rather than large ground armies. In other words, electronic warfare. We're going to start with the aircraft, because that's what they're using most of over there right now, I think. Yesterday they weren't. You'll see, as we proceed, the technology is an integral part of all of these systems, and I'm talking about the AI and some of these quantum physics and all this other stuff. To knock out some, all, or part of the defense systems in Iran, the fast movers were sent in. This is an F-18. The F-18 and the F-35 were not only capable fighters, but they contain extensive electronic warfare capabilities, knocking out radar, jamming communications, and literally frying electronic equipment that receives their frequencies. So we have some guy sitting at a console somewhere in Iran or Venezuela, and all of a sudden the machine blows up. That's because there's an airplane somewhere toasting it. I don't know how it works again, but this is the F-22 Raptor, and it's an amazing aircraft. There's enough information to talk about a half hour on. If these first airplanes that go in to bust up all of the systems, if they meet with enemy planes, their partner, another stealth aircraft, the F-22 Raptor, flies in the same air and is literally unequaled in performance. It can fly up to 65,000 feet with a top speed of over 1,500 miles an hour. It has a super short turning radius and advanced aerial maneuvers. It has a range of over 1,800 miles, and they also have electronic data and image gathering sensors and radars that give the pilot a full battlefield picture. And what I mean is a picture, it pulls the image of whatever they're shooting at into the pilot's view, so he can actually see what it looks like. This is one amazing aircraft as well, the EA-18 Growler. This is the one that they really pinpoint to disable all this electronic equipment. It jams the radar so they can't track aircraft. It blocks their communications because they can't talk to each other between units. And it detects and analyzes enemy radars and finds them and then blanks them out. And there's a suppression of enemy air defenses. That's what it's called SEAD. That's what all of this stuff does. And it works alongside the F-18s and the F-35s. Now, Dr. Browning, before the presentation, he asked me, he said, "Are you going to talk about the B-2? I said, well, yeah, thought I might. So this is the B-2 Spirit. The B-2 Spirit is a stealth bomber. It's designed to avoid radar detection. It has a 173-foot wingspan. It's 69 foot long and 17 foot high. And it's made from a variety of materials, all capable of slipping through radar. And it can carry nuclear and conventional bombs within 2 internal bomb bays. It has all kinds of electronic jamming and blocking technology, and the weapons are actually GPS directed. And these are the airplanes that drop and I have to look at the page here to read this correctly, bunker buster bombs. I'm sure we've all heard about those. And this is, you may not be able to read this, but it's a depiction of the bomb itself and then a picture of the airplane and how it works out. But this is the GBU-58. It's called a Massive Ordnance Penetrator. It's one of the most powerful non-nuclear bombs on the planet. It weighs 15 tons. It's designed to destroy underground bunkers or other nuclear facilities buried deep in rock. Now, this is an actual picture of the bomb. You get an idea how big the thing is. They're only to be able to, you can only deploy them from these 2 aircraft, the Spirit, the B-2 Spirit, the B-21 Raider, due to their weight and size. It's 20 feet long and 3 feet in diameter. They're capable of penetrating reinforced concrete to the depths of 200 feet. Now, an interesting aside, I don't have this in paper, but I just remember it. And during my research, I find out that the United States knows that Iran has been able to develop reinforced concrete to, I think it's 30,000 PSI, pounds per square inch. I think that's fascinating that we know how much concrete, how thick their concrete is and how strong it is. So that's just something that hit my head and I thought, well, that's really great. So the B-52 here, this was taking off. Once the radars have been disabled, these systems have got to be disabled before the heavy work begins. The 70-year-old B-52s are called in. These 70-year-old aircraft are only used after the radar defenses have been eliminated, as they make a big picture on radar. They were used after all the radar stations in Iran had been knocked out. And they fly at 50,000 feet, carry 35 tons of payload, and have a range of 8,000 miles. And they can be refueled in the air, and they travel at about 650 miles an hour. Now this is also interesting. The B-52s that are currently involved in the bombing in Iran take off from, I have to read this, it's called Knob Noster, Missouri. And it's a small town about 60 miles east of Kansas City, Missouri. And it's an 18-hour flight to Iran. And they're refueled in the air, obviously. And there's 2 pilots. One is like the pilot, and the other guy is all the electronic warfare, bombs, GPS, the whole bit. So I thought that was fascinating that they leave from Missouri. And all 20 of the B-52s that dropped these bombs are located in Missouri. Now, assisting the aircraft are missiles. And the missiles are fired from a variety of places, ships, submarines, and land bases. And this is the Tomahawk missile. That's the one that you hear about all a lot, that and the Patriot. These are long-range missiles. They're launched from ships or submarines. It uses UPS and terrain mapping. Again, it looks at pictures of things for very precise strikes. They use data from various different sources to find the location of the target, and they get a digital image, the operator does, of where it's going. And many times they're deployed, as we said, from ships, and I didn't have to have a picture of the submarine, but you can't see the submarines. That's why. Sorry, that just hit me. This is like a land-based Tomahawk missile thing. It's called a THAAD. It's a Thermal High Altitude Air Defense. It's a missile that it destroys ballistic missiles in the upper atmosphere. And this uses a hit-to-kill technology. It uses kinetic energy, which means it doesn't have explosives on it. It just runs into what it's aimed at and breaks it apart. And there's more on that later on. As I said, it carries no munitions, no warhead. And it's a heat-seeking missile, so it's hard to get away from if you're flying a jet airplane. So this is a little bit, I don't know how much you can read about this, but this is a little bit about how this works. You have, this missile would be coming from this side of the screen, and your unit is over here, and it just runs up and breaks the thing apart. When we talk about electronic warfare systems, and this will kind of give us an idea of what happens. This is all electronic warfare. Radio signal and noise jamming. It floods radar with radio noise. It jams and creates false targets in the radars. And it has a duplication of radar signals, which the guy might be looking at one airplane, but there's 12 there on the screen, so he doesn't know where the real one is. And it misleads guidance of missiles, blocks communications, anti-jamming technology to defeat enemy jamming. And then they're trying to jam us, but we got better jammers. Okay? And the frequency hopping, that's where it finds the frequency it needs and then goes and does what it needs to do on that frequency. And AI signal filtering, now that's way out there on the spectrum. But AI, or artificial intelligence, is a vital part, as we've seen and we'll see. As much of this equipment relies on it, and the results are nothing but precise. A long way from the air, sea, and land naval invasions, with tens of thousands of human beings with rifles, hand grenades, and radios. And now let's talk about the soldier and Marine in the field. and with some of the equipment that's coming out for them. This is called an infantry fighting vehicle. It has composite tracks, which are not metal, reduces road noise and vibration. It also improves agility on the roads, mixed terrain, and it carries what's called airburst ammunition, which doesn't necessarily hit something to explode. It explodes in the air, and it's a drone killing device, and also for ground troops or whatever. I found a lot of interesting stuff, so you have to bear with me when I bring this up. It has all kinds of electronic equipment. It's an amazing thing. The one thing that caught my attention, it has a 20 millimeter Gatling gun, which offers adjustable firing rates of between 750 and 1,500 rounds a minute. I did the math, that's 20 rounds per second. So while I was saying the definition of it, they could have dumped 1,500 rounds. Okay. But as Ron Popeil used to say on television, wait, there's more. This little guy is the Mutt. That's what it's called. And it looks like its name. It's a rolling platform with unbelievable firepower. And this is one of them also that shoots that kind of munitions, 1,500 rounds a minute. And I was getting to the one that shoots 4,500 rounds a minute. 4,500, I can't even go there. This is the M134 minigun, and it's mounted on, I'm sorry, I got ahead of myself here. It's an electronically driven rotary machine gun used in helicopters, naval boats, military vehicles, and some aircraft door gunners. Now this is an exciting piece of equipment. This is the next generation squad weapon. It replaces the M4 and M16 family of firearms. It uses a 6.8 millimeter cartridge. It replaces the 5.56. The gun itself has advanced fire control systems, contains ballistics and aiming assistance that have been previously unavailable. In other words, it's almost a point and shoot thing. This makes the bullet just over 1/4 of an inch in diameter, and that has more penetration. You can see that the difference in the two cartridges, the one on the left is the new one, 6.8, the 5.56 on the other side. Basically the same length, but the case has got a lot more punch in it, and it's got a bigger projectile. Now back into the vehicles, this is the XM30 tank. Excuse me. It was formerly called a mechanized infantry combat vehicle. It's a tank. So I don't know why they have to complicate things. It replaces the Bradley M2. It has a 50 millimeter automatic cannon, twice as big as the Bradleys. It also carrying anti-gun guided missiles, fully digital fire control systems, and it provides precision engagement and targeting for the people operating it. This is the M10 Booker. It's a mobile protected firepower. It's a combat vehicle. The Army calls it an infantry assault vehicle. It has the heavy gun and tank mobility, but on a much smaller frame. And consequently, it can move faster, set up quicker, and be more effective. The Army calls it a fast-moving, fire-breathing hideout for troops. Makes sense to me. The Atlas tank with AI. This is a new class of tank or combat vehicle, having artificial intelligence, weapon systems, and mobility systems to acquire, identify, and engage targets 3 times faster than current manual systems. It's high-tech, but it still has a human crew. However, in this case, this is the X tank, Abrams X tank, and it has an unmanned turret and an autoloader, and it's nearly silent in its movements. It's being tested as possibility of becoming an unmanned vehicle. So, okay. Now we're going to move into robotics and automated systems. We're talking about flying drones, unmanned ground vehicles, and yes, humanoid robots. The drones and autonomous aircraft, or UAS, unmanned aircraft systems, is what we're talking about. They come in various shapes and sizes, excuse me, and you'll see they come in a variety. They have capabilities for flying, ground work, and also underwater. And that's basically your typical drone with an army unit. Now, jumping into the bigger drones, this is what they call a kamikaze drone. Pay attention, the punchline on this is really cool. It's called a Lucas attack drone, or kamikaze, because it's a single-use drone. It has an 8-foot wingspan, it's 10 feet long, and has a 500-mile range. The warhead detonates upon impact. It has high explosive fragmentation warheads. They target smaller targets like radar arrays, fuel depots, command facilities, etc. In other words, it's a precision, small target killer. Now this is a line to think about it. They consider it, I can't how they get this out. They consider it an inexpensive single-use drone at only $35,000 a piece. Sorry, I get wrapped up in this technology. This is the Great Eagle, and it is a short takeoff and landing drone. Obviously, it's made to leave carriers and amphibious ships. 20 to 25 hours of flight time. It's designed for surveillance, intelligence, and recon missions, but at the same time, it carries 12 Hellfire missiles. It has sensors and cameras that allow it to evade anti-drone frequency jamming defenses. And the pilots of these things, I found this fascinating too, are usually somewhere in the United States, and they're flying in Iran. And they're sitting in a building with all kinds of telemetry, dials, levers, screens, buttons. And I looked into that one time, and the guy over was showing me around. He said, right here we got labor A, and this is labor B. I said, I think that's what I'll do. I just left her be. So, this is a big guy, the RQ Global Hawk. This crazy thing flies at 60,000 feet for a range of 12,000 miles. It's halfway around the world. It can do 30 hours of continuous flight time. Now this carries the latest technology of sensors, intelligence systems, and extremely high resolution photography. Now these are things that can read a license plate from 60,000 feet. That's why we may call these aircraft suborbital satellites, really. And this fascinated me. That's a refueling drone. A refueling drone. It carries 2,200 gallons of jet fuel, has a range of 500 miles. Now think about this. It's unmanned, carrier launched, and it saves the pilots from flying a flight like this where they can be used in a fighter plane or a bomber or something like that. It just makes good sense. And this is a drone swarm. This is being used quite a bit right now. As many drones as you want can be operated together and carry whatever is needed to the enemy, whether it be on contact explosives or dropping something. These things are used as, they're single use, or they can be brought back. So it's not like $35,000. While we're on autonomous equipment, let's talk about humanoid robots. Oh, that's not it. This, hold the applause till later. Robotics covers a lot of territory. Unmanned vehicles, aircraft, machines, and of course, these guys here. These These are equipped with, I'll get over here, thermal management, so they can find out what temperature is to go here or go there. They have sensors, motor and gear systems, battery technology, software, AI and data centers, and semiconductors. And these are actually human-like ground fighting robots. They're explicitly designed for combat adjacent roles. And what that means is they can be used for recon, bomb disposal, high-risk operations such as first man in, keeping humans out of harm's way. These robots are not autonomous. In other words, they have a human directing the traffic. As combat partners, they can work continuously shift after shift, replacing humans in mundane tasks, and they're still in the planning and development stage at this point. For assistance in recon and intel, this is a prototype robot soldier. And this is the robot soldier. Fascinating little piece of machinery. It's a gun platform or intelligence gathering machine. It can sniff out gases, perform intel, and create havoc with enemy troops. It carries all manner of sensors and munitions, and they are companions to the military. So let's not leave out man's best friend. Oh, wait a minute, those are my cats, I'm sorry. Here's the dog, that's what I wanted. I don't know how that happened. Anyway. Now imagine this, you're an enemy soldier, and you see these guys with this skeleton dog. You're not, what is that? Will I shoot it? Or what? Is it going to bark at me? I mean, I think this is fascinating, because if you're an enemy soldier and you see this thing coming down, what are you going to do? You're going to shoot it? Maybe you can hit it, I don't know. Talk about stealth. This skeleton of a dog can be equipped with cameras, GPS, sensors for poison gas or explosives, and it can even have a high-powered machine gun or more. So, I'm sorry, I just find a lot of this stuff really fascinating. And little humor never hurt anybody. So, this is, we're moving into my area. I was in the Navy, as I said. Navy subs. I was on a submarine once, but it was in a museum in Chicago. They've got one up there, U-505. On the horizon is a replacement for the aging Ohio-class submarines. And this is a Columbia-class SSBN 826. I'll get into the numbering situation here in a minute. But these carry ballistic missiles, and this will be the largest ever built. 560 feet long, 43 feet in diameter, and it has 16 missile tubes. And I think this, obviously you can't see this, but it gives you some idea of the armament down there below where the submarine is. And it's amazing. It will carry 1,900 warheads. The power plant, the nuclear reactor, will make the same amount of noise, or what is called acoustic energy, as a 20-watt light bulb. The core has a lifespan of 42 years, and of course that means the drive propulsion is electric. Now here's an interesting side vehicle. I don't know if you can see this yellow thing in the water. You folks over there? This is the USS Delaware and nuclear sub 791. It's one of the newest ballistic missile subs, launched in 2024. The photo shows an underwater remote vehicle. These are deployed and recovered through the torpedo tubes that launch and recovery system. These remote vehicles can locate mines, other underwater obstacles and defenses, allow for underwater inspections of hulls to reduce the need for human exposure, and they increase the ability to map and search underwater. And recently, as a part of the Iran conflict, a U.S. sub sank at least one Iranian ship, the first time that's happened since World War II. So, I think my battery must be Oh. I do have replacement batteries. Well, we'll see. Okay. Moving on to service ships. This is the USS Gerald R. Ford. It's the largest aircraft carrier in the world. I'll get into the CVN. It's the CVN 78. You see the numbers on the side. C stands for aircraft carrier. V means it carries heavier than air aircraft. And the N stands for nuclear. And the number on it is 78. That's the hull number. The next one will be 79. And it is the newest and largest aircraft carrier in the world. It is currently on duty in the Mediterranean as we speak. Some statistics that'll blow your mind. The flight deck is 256 feet wide, 1,092 feet long. That's the length of 3.6 football fields, and it covers 4.5 acres. And it has 25 decks. If you've ever been on a ship, you know what I'm talking about. You can imagine being on the 04 level and having to go to the berthing compartment in the 12 level. That's 16 floors. So the interesting thing about this is that it needs to be refueled also in 20 years. So effectively that makes the range indefinite except for human needs. Including the flight crews and the ship's complement, 4,500 service members are on that ship, men and women, officers and enlisted. This is one of the newer ships, the USS Herschel Williams. It is an expeditionary sea-based ship. They formerly were called a mobile landing platform or forward staging base. They accommodate 350 Marines, and it provides a landing platform for short takeoff aircraft, berthing and command and control assets. All but one of these ships is home ported in the Mediterranean or South Pacific. The other one's in Norfolk. The USS Bougainville, again, is an amphibious assault ship. These are equipped with a well deck. I found this fascinating, along with expanded medical and repair facilities and accommodating for 1,600 Marines and a crew of 1,000. This, you can see here, they're tending, on the left-hand side of that picture, they've got the well deck at the waterline. And so ships can come up, boats, whatever, and be serviced, medical, repair, whatever it is. And you get a bit better picture of that right there. The aircraft on board are the short takeoff, the Osprey and the other different kinds of aircraft. The interesting thing about this particular ship is they are also used to recover spacecraft crew capsules. So if you see them picking something up in the ocean when they come back, it's probably one of these guys. And there's an exhaustive number of new things: destroyers, cruisers, auxiliary ships, submarines, and you name it. It could be part of this presentation, but I was only limited to 5 hours, so stand by. And now we want to talk about the new kid on the block, the Space Force. It's a new partner in the battlefield, space. And I'm going to read this to you because it's informative. The U.S. Space Force is responsible for ensuring space superiority, protecting satellites, providing critical space capabilities for military operations. Its capabilities include satellite communications, missile warning systems, space surveillance, and the management of space launch operations. And this is just some idea of, if you can read it, some of the stuff that they do. Keeping GPS satellites operational during a conflict is absolutely essential. Also, most battle success relies on knowing two things: where I am and where the enemy is. And so with the satellites in force, they can click on those babies and see how many of us are in this room if we walked down the parking lot. That's scary. So another item of concern is space junk. Now this is another thing that caught my attention. The Space Force is working with the FCC, Federal Communications Commission, to make new rules for eliminating much of this junk. Finally, the Space Force facilitates launches, not only military, but commercial. And right now, they handle 31 GPS satellites are floating around the world. And they're tracking 47,000 orbiting objects. And that's the space junk. And other countries, excuse me, other countries' satellites. It's mind-blowing. Some of the newest stuff is not even out yet, of course. And this is the command type of center. You've seen also NASA type stuff. And this is the newest of the new stuff, and some of it isn't even built yet. Microelectronics, the James Bond stuff, implants and communications and more, renewable energy and storage, high energy lasers and microwaves, travel the speed of light, and flying greater than Mach 5. I'll get into that in a minute. Hypersonic weapons is what we're talking about. We've talked about hypersonic in brief. When it comes to missiles, Mach 5 is 5 times the speed of sound, which is 3,800 miles an hour. That's Cape Cod to San Diego in 45 minutes. I don't think you could see across here. Anyway, this is an interesting slide because what we're talking about here in just a second is you have a target and a shed or ground-based artillery, whatever it is, and your target's going in a straight line. This has to do with the hypersonic missiles. It's pretty easy, like the old video games when we were younger and they got started. This is going over there, I can lead it and hit it. You ever been skeet shooting, trap shooting? That's what it's talking about. This, however, is what we're talking about with this electronic hypersonic weapons. When these missiles are fired, they have the capability of erratic flight. And this eliminates the predicted path of flight. And if you can see this red line, this is what one of these hypersonic missiles is going to look like in flight. Now, I don't know about you, but I wouldn't try to hit something like that traveling 3,800 miles an hour. First it's going left, then it's going right, then it goes around the circles. The conventional missile is the arc on the top, and you can see how easy it would be to predict where that thing is going. So the final thing is really some of the James Bond and Dick Tracy stuff. It's called directed energy weapons. It's the laser era. These technologies fall into 2 categories: high energy lasers, which emit focused beams of protons, and high power microwaves, which shoot radio frequencies to disrupt and destroy electronics. And this is one of them and how it works. This is called the iron beam tube. Lasers offer high accuracy and low cost deployment, making them especially effective in prolonged air, sea, and space-based warfare. On the other hand, microwaves can steadily disable electronics in drones, radio-controlled bombs, and radar systems from a distance. This is another one, it's the Iron Beam 1. One of the biggest advantages of laser systems is cost. As long as they share a power source, a laser can fire repeatedly, making it a more affordable option than $1 million missiles or $35,000 drones. The Navy has equipped destroyers with laser systems capable of shooting down drones and small boats. And this is a strongbow laser, 400 kilowatts. If we have any electricians in the room, I'm sure you know that's a lot of electricity. This laser was developed from the metal cutting lasers used in industry. And literally that's what it can do. It can cut through missile casings and drone bodies or drone swarms within seconds of contact. Lasers are currently being used in counter-drone attacks, and they have never-ending supply of firepower as long as you have an electrical supply. Kinetic energy systems, and this is difficult to see, but you may have heard of the dome. I think some time ago they were talking about Iron Dome or whatever it was, but this is what that amounts to. It's not really a structure in the sky, but there are dome-like defenses. These have been used by the Israelis and are currently being used in the Mediterranean. This is difficult to read, but what happens is you've got these ground-based or ship-based weapons, and then you've got lasers going, you've got high-powered missiles going, hypersonic things, and rockets, whatever. And they just shoot at various things at the various distances. Something's 6,000 feet, they shoot a different thing at it, and then all down through there. It really is an amazing situation. And they call it a dome because it pretty much covers them. The Israelis, I know for sure, have been using this in their defense system. And that's a blank slide. So I want to conclude with a couple of things. I get a little emotional doing this. So I'm going to put up a slide in a minute. I won't be able to read it, but I want you all to read it. Who knows what the next newest advanced technology is going to be? It'll blow our minds like most of this stuff has. And I hope this presentation has given you an insight into what's going on now and what may be coming in the future. And research has shown that for humans, speaking in public is second only to death by fire. So in spite of that, I do say, and sincerely, I've enjoyed this research and sharing this experience with you, and I offer my heartfelt thanks for the opportunity. And I'm going to put this slide up, and you'll have to read. Thank you.
Okay, we've got microphones going around the room, so we can start asking some questions to this gentleman. Got one here, right here. This guy's got an Air Force hat on, so he's probably gonna have an Air Force question. Go ahead, say your name, look at the camera.
Okay, my name's Larry Weiss. I spent 4 years from 65 to 69 in the Air Force, worked out on the flight line on the aircraft most of the time. If I'd have been out there taking pictures of all this stuff back in, I'd probably been tucked away somewhere and never be found. How come it's so available nowadays?
Well, it's available on the internet. Like I said, I've got something in my pocket where if I simply open it up and make a few marks on there, I can find out, first off, where I am and how long it takes me to get somewhere else, and I can find out who the Emperor Timbuk 26 is. It is what it is today, and we just have to face it and let them live with it. I've got grandkids that just left to go back home, and they're 9 years old and smart as a whip. They've got all this stuff they know. Yeah, that's why some of this stuff has amazed me so much. Yeah.
Thank you very much. I really appreciated all that information. My name's Melissa Vanderveer, and I want to know, with all that technology, why did we hit that girls' school?
It's not perfect. That's all I can say. It's a machine. So.
They had it identified. That girls' school was in the middle of a military complex that was no longer in use, but probably on our maps it was identified as a military project.
Okay, I didn't know that.
Go ahead.
Barbara Boots Witty, my question is, I recently heard on the news about a big interference with Stryker, one of our biggest medical firms, where they hacked everything and just shut their company down. With all this, how are we working on preventing that from happening when the guy's trying to push the button? Is there an automatic override where a human can interfere?
Well, as far as the robotics and stuff like that, most of what I was talking about is human operated. Where you get into a situation is when you send one of these missiles up, for example, and then it's on its own autopilot. It's not a perfect world, and that was explained to me some years ago. There's going to be mishaps, there's going to be failures, there's going to be hacks. AI scares me. I'll be frank with you, it scares me, because you never know anymore what's really real and what's not, and that's the scary part. It's handy. I used it in preparing for this, but I don't know how it works again.
Alan Phillips. One of the things we learned, I worked for the Army for a lot of years, some of it in the development of future Army weapon systems and programs. One of the things we learned at the Iran war was, if you're second best, don't bother showing up. And just an example, for 25 years I lived within 2 miles of Langley Air Force Base, which was the home of the first tactical fighter wing, and it's the first place that they got the brand new F-22s. So when they flew them in, the commander of Langley Air Force Base, the Air Combat Command 4-star general, told the Hampton City mayor that the difference between the F-22 and the F-15, which is what they had been flying, was that he could put a mediocre pilot in an F-22, send him up against 15 F-15s with his best pilots. The F-22 would shoot down all of the F-15s before the F-15s ever saw the F-22. And that was 25 years ago. So the technology they have, what you're seeing is the unclassified stuff.
Right.
But it's typically an order of magnitude ahead of our competitors, and the Chinese aren't real happy with how well their radar operated, both in Venezuela and in Iran. So the lesson was, if you're not the best, then you might not even bother showing up, because that's how much better our stuff is than the other guys.
Maybe you could talk about it, or Mike could talk about it, but the stealth bomber, I think we had 21 of them, 19 left. I'd like to know the cost of one of those. And the stealth is supposedly, you said, referred to, Mike, about made of composite things, but they say sometimes it can only fly 26% of the time because it doesn't do well with moisture. Maybe you can address that. It's a tremendous, and I guess the composite allows it to be not detected by radar. And the first stealth was about 20 years ago. Can you go over the stealth bomber, which is one of our forefront of whatever war?
Yeah, I don't know the exact materials that are used, but the surface has a lot to do with it. There's not much surface on that aircraft, and it's angled, so any signals hit it will deflect. You see the Navy ships have got all this angled stuff. It's billions of dollars, Doctor. for one of those airplanes. I did $1.5 million, $2.5 billion, something like that. But it is what it is.
I was going to say that the cost is about $2 billion per B-2. And when you talk about stealth, the radar cross-section of, I know it was the F-117 and probably the B-2 was the equivalent of the radar cross-section of a Hawk or an Eagle. That's how much they reduced the radar signature of the airplane, which makes it so difficult to detect, and how they can fly them in and nobody ever sees them until they're too late.
Yeah, he's got a question here.
It's the special coating on the stealth equipment, because that absorbs or reflects any radar.
Thank you, sir. Just to switch the topic for a second, you're a Navy man. We just pushed the USS Indiana in. It's, I think the fourth ship was named after Indiana. It was a submarine. They pushed it in. Most of them are pushed in over Virginia, but they sort of gave a christening, second christening down in Florida, Cape Canaveral. But that is there's two types of subs, and correct me if I'm wrong, but they shoot the missiles out, and that's what you showed, 550 feet long or so, and then they have one that are attacked. So I think USS Indiana's attacked, and so it was 2.7 billion, I think, so yours was 2 billion. So I look at the national budget, healthcare, we're at 4 or 5 trillion. With all this military stuff, we're at 1 trillion. We're going to go to 1.5 in 27. So, I mean, you're talking that, you're talking 25% of all your tax money is going to these types of things. But if we don't do it, we're going to have problems, and if we do it, we're going to have big problems. Can you talk about the economy of these things, and talk about the USS Indiana and how important that was it's going to be in our defense?
Yeah. I hadn't heard about the Indiana. So the big nuclear subs is what looked at on that.
And what do you think about the economy of your health care at 1 trillion, and then all this stuff you showed us at 5 trillion? What do you think about that, Michael? What should we do?
Well, I've been around, and what I know is you get what you pay for. You can pay me now or you can pay me later. So, again, I hate to use the term, but it is what it is. If you want to stay free, you have to pay the price. And unfortunately, there's too many people that didn't make it into this room because they paid the price. And that's what this slide tears me up.
Any other questions from anybody? You can raise your hand. Yeah, we got another one here. Second. Tell us your name and.
My name is Steve. I just want to know if anything is ammunition is made in Crane, Indiana.
Any of this ammunition made in Crane, Indiana?
I didn't get that deep into it, but I probably so. I know that in World War II, 95% of the 45 caliber cartridges were made in Evansville.
Bob Wilcox over there close to Mount Vernon, just a gigantic plant that helps make some war material. I think some of the Tomahawk missile, I'm not sure, and a lot of on ships and even subs, but it's a gigantic plant over there. And I was in the Persian Gulf War in 1990-91. He talked about the Patriot missile and the Tomahawk. And if you look at that, we lost 168 people, 2 from Evansville area. They're out there across from the city county building. There's a statue of them. But only 168 people. And I probably wouldn't be here if we didn't have all this technology. The Patriots and the Tomahawk missiles just neutralized every bit of their communication before we even went into war. There was a guy that talked here, a general in the Air Force. He was the first plane that went across the border. But when you run across the border, they had nothing left. They couldn't communicate with each other. So it's just like the gentleman said, it wasn't even a first and a second, it was a first and a 10th. But as a soldier, when you're in the front line, Saddam Hussein had all that nuclear stuff, and we thought he had nuclear stuff, and we had a lot of the nitrogen mustard like Hitler used. And we were, as a warrior, you're sitting there even though we probably had the odds of 100 or 500 to 1 against that enemy, you as an individual still worry that you're not coming back. And you put it in your mind, and as being a soldier, you still have a little bit of doubt. So even with all this technology, some things can happen. We went through the Straits of Hormuz, just like they're talking about. You could see both sides. We go single file because of mines. We've got a picture of that up in front, but the single file is because you're trying to avoid mines. And actually in LST in World War II, they did the same. And when our ships would all go single file, and then we would go in circles in that Gulf, the Persian Gulf, we'd go in circles and stay in the same circle so we didn't need mines. And every ship was just going in a circle. And at one time we had to call general quarters because a missile went over our ship. We'd have all been dead if we'd have, but we all hit general quarters and scared to death. But you all got ready for battle, and it was a missile from the enemy. But these missiles can just get you in a second. They're so fast. And we had to talk about von Braun. Remember, he was the one that created missiles way back, and that's why we got von Braun over here, is because it jumped you from 500 miles an hour to 3,500 miles an hour. You don't even have a chance. And so we in the United States saw the value of von Braun and the value of these things to beat you, like you just said. You can't be second.
Right.
What do you comment about any of those things, Mike?
About what?
Any of that junk.
Well, that stuff costs money. And I think Doc hit the nail on the head with his last sentence. Again, if you don't have this stuff, probably have to learn a different language at some point. And we don't want that. So freedom is not free. You hear that all the time. And again, you can't escape it. It's the way it is.
Next week, and John may have an announcement, next week we have a person come from Mount Carmel. He was a prisoner of war in Vietnam for 5 years.
Wow.
I could last about a day, 5 years. And he's going to talk about his prisoner of war experience coming over Mount Carmel. So 5 days is or 5 years, oh my God. Just think of how that's mind over body. I worked with a doctor, and he was 40, and I was 28, and he was in the prison camp for 7 years. And I'd walk around with him. He was my hero. I'd see that guy, and I'd just say, how can this guy have any normalcy to him? He acted normal. I thought, how could you even be normal? Being in a Vietnamese prison camp for 7 years, He had a Porsche because he had 7 years of back pay. But you couldn't give me a Porsche. You couldn't give me 100 Porsches for that back pay. I wouldn't take it. I'd take freedom. But he's coming next week. Johnny, we've got another question. Okay.
Jim Gillette. Recently, over the last few years, I've been seeing reports on Havana syndrome. Havana syndrome, where the pig heron, you hear that right?
Yeah.
Okay. Where our diplomats first started in Havana, the State Department, the diplomats we had there, and it's been other places where the diplomats have gotten all sorts of brain injuries, and their families too, even in Washington, D.C. And they thought, could this be some sort of microwave impulse machine or something? And the government said, that can't be, because you'd have to have a machine mounted on the size of a truck to do it. And so for years, they told all these diplomats that experienced these terrible headaches and brain injuries that it was just in their mind, so to speak. But recently, I don't know, it was the CIA or somebody, they bought one of these machines that does this. And it's not on a big truck. It's like in I would say 10 to 40 pound, when they talk about, they didn't show it, size where it can easily be carried by somebody in a backpack to do this. Okay? So the scary part, they said, was they suspected the Russian government, and it may be. But the scary part was they bought it from the Russian mob. So the Russian government had this technology that they let loose that's on the open market, the highest bidder. So that is a really scary thing. So I guess the cautionary tale is, we can look at missiles, hypersonic missiles, all that stuff, we need a defense for that. But we can't lose sight that a lot of this stuff that we're gonna have coming against us is kind of rudimentary, elementary, small, hard to spot. We gotta have it be effective against all types of things. You can see that with the drones, how they come about, okay? You can see about the missiles that are anti-shooting now with they drop cluster bombs. You know, one missile will drop 50 cluster bombs. So all these little things that maybe aren't the highest tech that we have, but they can still be deadly, and if we lose sight of those, we could be in real trouble.
So I think it's like the gentleman in the back said, you're either first or last. And so having a sensor that would detect those things is some of what I talked about. The sensors that can tell a lot of different things. Now we can't, as human beings, we don't have the ability to detect those things. And if we know about those things, we can have devices that are present in the building, for example, and say, hey, this is working over here. If this room was bugged, there are machines that say, well, it's bugged, it's over there. So it's probably available in technology, but they didn't know they needed it. I can just guess that, but whatever.
But what you're bringing up there is surreptitious things that could happen to us here, happen anywhere, and whenever there is some energy spent on something, there's an equal type of energy spent on something else. So we've spent a lot of energy against Iran, and is there other type of equal energy in a different type of method that could expose us? And we're such a free country. 9/11 has limited us tremendously, and we're going to be limited all the more over the next century because of that type of thing you're talking about. And you can't detect those things. There's going to be something else that somebody's going to invent. It's going to be hard to protect all of us. Very hard in such a free country. Other questions? Okay, Micah, thank you so much. We'll see you next week. See you on April 2nd.